All right, so for this video, I just kind of wanted to talk about the basically the difference between like fake synchronicity and real synchronicity, because people talk about this a lot in spiritual circles. They talk about this idea of synchronicity, right? Like meaningful coincidences, right? But if you're into like the reincarnation trap, the soul trap information, you will know that synchronicity is something that you should be skeptical of, right? Because some synchronicities are generated by this simulation, by this overlay onto this planet. And so basically I just wanted to make a video talking about like the distinction, like how do you distinguish the difference between real and fake synchronicity. And I think the major defining characteristic of like what distinguishes the two is where does it come from, right? And basically it's basically, does it come from inside or does it come from the outside, right? And basically, if you want to use like a Hindu terminology, right, you can say that basically, if it comes from the if it comes from the outside, if it comes from Maya, right, the illusion of Maya, right, if it comes from, if it's like, if a synchronicity is forced on you externally from an external source, then that's how you know that it's probably simulation generated. If you think about like the new age deception of like quote unquote angel numbers, or like the tarot cards and all that other or like channeling and all that other stuff, that's all simulation generated. That's all externally generated stuff. So if the synchronicity that you're looking at, if it starts from the outside, if it starts from Maya, right, then that's how you know it's fake, basically. But on the other hand, if the synchronicity comes from inside, like if you look at like your essence, right, you look at like the difference, but and yet again using Hindu terminology, you look at your Atman, right, your essence, your divine spark. If synchronicity comes from that, like, oh, suddenly I'm interested in this, right, or I feel this way, right, and then the meaningful coincidence happen. That's how you know that it's a real synchronicity, that it's consciousness and it's the essence overriding the program to create that synchronicity, right? And I think that's something that's like really important to like a really important skill, is to be able to distinguish like whenever a synchronicity or a meaningful coincidence or like a sign, right, or whatever, that you're going down the right path, whether it comes from the outside, whether it comes from the simulation first, right, like yet again the point of origin. Where is it coming from? Is it something that's just being weirdly forced on you by outside circumstance, or is it something that is, that it comes from inside, right? But because there's a reason why you're interested in certain things. There's a reason why that you, whenever people talk about certain things, or whenever you feel certain, like a certain energy off of people, there's a reason why you feel certain ways about certain things. There's a reason why you're interested in certain topics and certain subjects, right? And all of that comes from your essence. And so if you're familiar, if you know thyself, right, know thyself, if you know your essence, and why is it that I'm interested in this, why is it that I feel this way when this person says this, why do I feel this way about, and like, to use an example, right, like whenever I would read, and like before I discovered like the soul trap information, right, like the reincarnation trap, like before I discovered like that information, or before I came across it, every time I read about reincarnation and about, quote unquote, learning lessons and karma and all that, like it always felt off to me. Like I always felt like, oh, like learning lessons and karma, like that's BS. Like I always felt that way, and then I came across the soul trap information, and so even if the external world, right, the illusion of Maya, even though like this matrix is going, even if it tells you one thing, if your essence says another, you have to stick with that. You have to stick with your essence. You have to know your essence. You have to know, why is it that I feel this way whenever someone says this or someone says that? Like, why does it feel off, right? And so that's like the major way that you're going to be able to tell the difference between internal versus external synchronicity, or real and fake synchronicities, right? Is that if it's simulation generated, if it comes from the outside force, if it comes from the outside first, and if it's forced upon you, just through happenstance, then that's how you know that it's probably a simulation generated synchronicity. But if it comes from within, if it's like, oh, okay, I'm interested in this, I want to see this happen, I want that to happen, and then it manifests, or you see, synchronicity because you decided to go search for something. You seek and you shall find. You followed your instincts and it led you down the right path. That's a real synchronicity, right? And one of the easiest ways to sort of tell um, the difference between uh, like your essence and like external sources, like how do you know it's your essence speaking, right? How do you know that it's your essence, your divine spark is that? Basically it's like where does that intuition come from? It's the same place that good and evil comes from. Like you like most people, unless you're like a psycho, right? Like the difference between good and evil, and you know it when you see it. Like you don't have to write show your work on like a fucking chalkboard. You don't have to show your work, and you don't have to reference 80 scientific studies to know that abusing animals is wrong. Like you just know the difference between good and evil, and that's your essence speaking. That's the the most basic and the most common example of the human essence is basically like the knowledge of good and evil, and knowing the difference between good and evil. Like that's like the biggest thing that's go. If you can sort of backtrack that, like, okay, like where does my sense of good and evil come from? If that's the same place that your essence, that's like your essence. So you can actually discover and backtrack where does your sense of good and evil come from, and you can backtrack that all the way to your essence, and so you can know, right, whether or not it's your essence talking, basically, because it's coming from the same place that good and evil comes from. It's coming from the same place that like your sense of justice comes from. And so if you can backtrack that to the same source, then that's how you're going to be able to sort of know thyself, to know your essence, to know like when it is that your essence is speaking to you and telling you, when something's off or when something's right, right? Because yet again, it's the same place that good and evil comes from. So that's a really, really easy way to sort of connect with your essence, to sort of say, to sort of know your essence, is that it's the same thing inside of you that tells you the difference between good and evil, and it tells you like that. Like yet again, you don't need to logic it out or reference 80 scientific studies. You don't need to show your work or explain why. You just know, right? And that's the essence speaking. And so if you can backtrack where does good and evil come from, you'll be able to get to your essence and be able to access more of that intuitive functionality that is inside of your essence, inside of your divine spark. But yeah, I just wanted to make a quick little video about how do you tell the difference between real and fake synchronicity. And it's just connecting to that essence, being able to say, okay, what is it inside of me that tells me the difference between good and evil, and backtracking that, and that's how you're going to be able to access the the intuitive essence, and you're going to be able to navigate this crazy place a whole lot better. You're going to be able to navigate this soul trap a whole lot better if you connect with that essence instead of listening to what's outside. You listen to what's inside. But yeah, that's the video.